when the idea of starting another cymbal company came about, I knew this was going to be so healthy for Dad and for Mom.
I encouraged him. I have great faith that no matter what Bob did, he would come out on top.
He's driven to make this company as strong and as in his fashion as it can be.
I just love this business, and I love my family, and it's my family, and it's a family business.
And the cymbals that they're doing, they started this whole tradition, and they carried the tradition that they had started years ago of really caring about what they do, but the cymbals are really nice.
I felt at home immediately with them.
I've been a Sabian endorser for 24 years. So when they were still babies, I was still a baby, we kind of grew up together.
They thought by the end of 1 year I would go under financially.
But I knew he'd be a success.
"600 years of traditional Turkish-style cymbal making has brought sultans, artisans, and musicians together. This is an epic tale. Robert Zildjian and his ancestors have journeyed from the Ottoman Empire to New Brunswick. A long journey filled with fame, wealth, and drama.
Sabian is a manufacturer of cymbals to be used in all kinds of music. The creativity that Sabian has put into cymbals and drumming has been really probably our strongest aspect.
This innovative company, with roots in 17th century Istanbul and 20th century Boston, is located in a small village in New Brunswick, Canada.
Yes, the impression is of serenity is very deep all around the factory in Meductic, and I think that the contrast between the trees, the calm, the nature, the eternity that seems to lie in this place. And then it seems that you are in a alien movie with machines, oil, metal, fire, ovens, and this contrast, I think, is very representative of the Sabian cymbals. And you can explain that. It's a feeling when you see the cymbal and when you play it. I couldn't explain what it is, but I feel that there is something very, very deep from ancestral knowledge and
the craftsmanship.
Yeah, craftsmanship.
And the
you feel it when you.
History in each of the cymbals.
Yeah.
What is this ancestral knowledge? To find our answer, we must delve into the history of the Ottoman Empire. Many were drawn to Constantinople, now Istanbul, seeking fortune and fame. A center for art and commerce, the city was also the home of the Ottoman army. For centuries, the army was accompanied by Janissary marching bands. In battle, the ferociousness of the music inspired fear in their enemies and emboldened the army to victory. Making musical instruments for the army was a privilege. In 1618, Armenian alchemist Avidas and his metalsmith father were awarded this honor thanks to an accidental discovery. While trying to turn copper and tin into gold, Avidas stumbled onto a fusing process that changed his life and brought cymbal players an entirely new sound. The Sultan awarded Avidas with 80 pieces of gold, $250,000 by today's standards. He was then prestigiously named Zildjian, which literally means son of cymbal maker. No one could know how prophetic this new name would become. A few years later, Avidas and his father were given permission to open their own cymbal-making business. This was the beginning of a new era for the Zildjians and the official birth of now legendary Zildjian cymbals.
Since this business has been in our family at least till the 17th century, it's not uncommon to have that kind of a name.
Inspired by the Ottoman army marching band, composers such as Gluck, Mozart, and Beethoven introduced cymbals into their orchestras. Audiences were quick to appreciate this new instrument and musical style. For generations, the secret passed from father to eldest son. However, at the turn of the 20th century, Haratun Zildjian rejected tradition in favor of becoming an attorney general in Constantinople. His son Avidas, named for his ancestor, decided to seek adventure in the land of opportunity, America. So the business and its secrets passed to Avidas's uncle. For Avidas, life in America was good. He married Alice Sally Goodale and had 2 sons, Armand and Robert.
And then eventually he became the senior male member of our family. And being the senior male member, he was offered the cymbal making business.
The offer came from Avidas's uncle. In a letter, he asked Avidas to return to Istanbul and take over the family business.
And he really said he didn't think it was that good a thing. And my mother, who was an old Yankee, she turned around and said, I think it's a wonderful thing. Why not get into it? Try it.
Avidas accepted the offer on the condition that he run the business from Boston. And so, traditional Turkish-style cymbal making came to the New World under the name of A. Zildjian. For the next 5 decades, K. Zildjian in Istanbul and A. Zildjian in Boston served musicians competitively and cooperatively.
It was very fortunate for my father because at that stage of the game, in spite of the Depression coming in very heavily, good music, nightclubs, dance bands, American jazz became quite the thing. And when people were depressed by the Depression, and they certainly were, they used to take their joy out with music.
As the company grew, so did Avidas's son, Robert.
The first job I had, my father made me go to the factory, and I was a sweeper at $2 a week. during the summer. And that was fine, except that at the end of the first week, I saw that 50 cents out of the $2. And out of the second week, I saw another 50 cents, but finally I went to my father and I said, are you paying me $2 or aren't you? And he said, oh, I'm paying you $2. He said, but I put $1.50 in the bank, in the savings bank. He said, you now have a bank balance. And I did. I really had a bank balance of $3. So I said, well, that's not enough for me, and I quit. and I went down and I shared a paper route with another friend of mine, and we used to deliver papers.
Though he may have avoided it, Robert couldn't stay away from the cymbal-making business for long. It was in his blood.
At the age of 14, I had to return, like my brother had to be an apprentice in the actual manufacturing of cymbals, and started in on the secret process. And my brother and I did almost all that sort of work.
For a time, Robert and his older brother Armin got along very well.
We were under one despot, and that despot was my father. You know, when two of us are under a dictator, you enjoy each other's company immensely. We worked together very well back then. Things didn't always go that way as time went on.
America's participation in World War II had a drastic impact on the production of cymbals.
During the war, copper and tin, of course, were prime metals for shells, bullet cases, and so forth.
Metal rationing nearly resulted in the closure of the business. But ironically, the only thing that kept them going was serving the military.
The only manufacturing we ever did was to provide cymbals for Army bands, Navy bands, Marine bands, and so forth.
But the Zildjians were not just supplying the military with instruments. The brothers enlisted with the U.S. Army, where Robert would serve as an infantryman in Europe. After the travesties of war, Robert's homecoming was the beginning of a new chapter in his life.
When I was 16, Bob was back from the service, and his mother and father were having a party at their house. My mother and father were friends of his mother and father well before I was even born. And I just always had known about Bob. And all these returning young people had the cellar, because that was all fixed up with a drum set and a bar and all the rest of it. And his mother and father's party was upstairs. And I was 16. I was too young for that one, and I was much too young for that one. So I sat on the cellar stairs and I watched the ones downstairs. And on the way home, I said to my mother, I'm going to marry somebody like Bob Zildjian. So you see, he really hadn't much of a chance.
He met the woman who would be his partner in all things, and had 3 children, Billy, Sally, and Andy. But, like so many others, the war had a long-lasting effect on Robert.
When the war was over, I had come back, and I wasn't too sure about everything going right in my little head. So some neighbors said, why don't we go hunting in New Brunswick for deer? And just to make sure that I was pretty straight, I agreed to come along. And any problems I had psychologically with post-war went away once we got into these gorgeous woods. So it was a big, what you might call a healing process.
This was Robert's first encounter with Meductic, a place that would later become his refuge. Robert was focused on making the company the best in the world. With his wife always at his side, he made deals, attended exhibitions, and expanded the business.
I was putting in 16 hours a day trying to get the marketing done, the sales done, the accounting worked out, the processing and so forth.
So I would run the shows with him. The two of us did almost all of the very small shows, and I'd be there at the larger shows in New York City and Chicago, but we were the first Americans who ever showed at the Frankfurt Fair in 1958, I believe it was. A lot of people would come by just to look at the Americans who were there.
At 45 years of age, Robert was unstoppable. 1960, Robert buys K. Zildjian factory in Istanbul.
That was the beginning of having a Turkish company. And for many years, I would have to go over 4 or 5 times a year.
1968, he opens Asco factory in Meductic.
We built a small factory here, 1968. The main reason was to make a less expensive cymbal. Another reason was that at the time, we were pretty much blocked out of the British Commonwealth of Nations by heavy duties, terrific tariffs.
1975, he closes K. Zildjian factory and brings Turkish artisans to Canada.
And then we closed the Turkish factory and brought the Zildjians from there over here. So we started making K. Zildjian, handmade cymbals exactly the same way they were made in Istanbul.
All seemed well for the business until the death of Robert's father in 1979, an event that would bring turbulence to the Zildjian family. A long legal battle ensued between the two brothers. Robert eventually left the company and received the Meductic factory as part of a settlement.
I was running 80% of that business, and I was told at the death of my father that I was no longer in power and I was out. That was terrible.
Once again, Meductic brought an end to Robert's agony. Interestingly, Meductic is a Maliseet word meaning the end. Now, on his own, but resolute, Robert opened a new cymbal-making company in 1981, Sabian.
I was faced with having to manufacture a brand new cymbal and pit it against a cymbal company that was 350 years old, 370, whatever. And it was not the easiest thing in the world, but I had an awful lot of good friends in the business because I had been traveling all the time for the company, and when people thought about Zildjian Company, they thought about Bob Zildjian because he was the one they met.
The very last part of the negotiations with Zildjian Company, we were told we had to pick out a name. And the lawyer, as Bob mentioned, said you can't use a Z, you can't use a D, and you can't use a J. Though that would be too close to Zildjian. So we thought, well, we've got to think up a name. And I said, it's got to be something personal, something that means something to us. Let's use our names. And Bob said, right, we'll make an anagram. Sally, Billy, Andy, that's good. And he said, use the first 2 letters, and there it was, Sabian. So that's how Sabian, the actual name, was evolved.
We started making all of the difficult cymbals. And if I told you their names, you'd think I'm crazy. But We made the splash, we made the fast crash, we made the Chinese, we made the swish, we made the gongs up here and so forth. So that when we ultimately did have a split, I had the most skilled labor force of the two companies.
Sabian thrived under his direction. Robert Zildjian had the ability to bring out the best in people. Employees and musicians were honored to be associated with him.
Sabian makes the best cymbals in the world. I mean, we try to be the most innovative company. We certainly get some of the best players in the world. It's just coming to a company and experiencing the hands-on work, that most companies don't do today. Our guest today is Tane, or Jeff Watts. He goes by Tane. He plays with Wynton and Marsalis, and world-renowned jazz band. One of the most rewarding parts of my job is actually to work with the artists that visit the factory to take a sound that they envision or have in their head and turn it into a musical instrument.
They're really seeking our input as far as designing these instruments. Maybe a 20, like a crash ride or something like that. So this is the HHX style, right? Yeah. It's kind of like getting a suit tailored, or getting some clothes custom made. You can have some input and take some chances with the direction. If you have any kind of idea with regards to design, you can present it to them, and they'll do their best to try to do it for you.
Trying to get a drummer to express what he wants and put it into an actual product is actually one of our sciences and one of the strong points of Sabian.
A pair of these with this higher profile and took them down to 13, you'd get some of the complexity.
Okay. So maybe I would try to deal with these for now, and then if
you're liking these, that's a good place to start, and then we can work towards some 13s.
Okay. Man, these are keepers. These are like beautiful, man.
And we just work. It's an ongoing process. We'll try a few things, and then the drummer, of course, will tell us, we're on the right path or we're not, and we just keep working back and forth until we get exactly what the drummer's looking for.
You need that human element that comes with a handmade product. You need that, someone to touch the metal and deal with the metal and just mess with it and then also listen to it, listen to it and see if it makes sense.
It makes the artists, when they visit the factory, it makes them really feel part of the family, and that's kind of what, Bob Zildjian instills in everyone here at Sabian, that they're part of the Sabian family. And you can go through the factory and I think you can get a sense of that feel.
This is a family business, and you can't help a family business where the people that work with you become part of the family too. And what provides a family becomes part of the family.
Yeah. Bob Zildjian has taken us all on a trip that we would never have realized, or most of us never realized even what we were good at in life until Bob took us and found it in us.
How often do you get a chance to sit down with the founding members of a large company and, eat hamburgers and hot dogs with them and have a piece of cake and, really just shoot the breeze with them?
The people up here, they don't want to leave the province, and if they can get a good job and stay in the province, to them that's really a wonderful thing. Am I a good boss? I try to be. That's all I can say.
Kissing booth. Hi, Sal. Hi, Andy. Good to see you.
You know what? Dealing with the staff is not that difficult because everybody really has the same goal in mind, and it's everybody's quality oriented. Everybody is really pleasant, so it's easy. Every once in a while, you'll have a difference of opinion, but we work it out because that's just how we do it. I guess it would be somewhat like a monopolistic democracy. So we have a king, but he listens to everybody. And that's my old man.
Sabian is now going to be what Zildjian Company was to me as a child. I'd seen my dad and my uncle in Zildjian Company. I'd seen my cousins partake in Zildjian's business. I'd seen my brothers start in the melting room, in the testing room, and I knew that Sabian will be that same company to my children.
Hey, what are we getting?
They insisted that you get a shirt too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll fit.
A lot of people wonder why Bob Zildjian bothered to introduce a new cymbal company after leaving his family business. Bob's rationale was that drummers deserve better cymbals. And as Sabian has demonstrated through years of award-winning innovation, they did deserve better cymbals.
We got people using more and more different cymbals, all for different types of composing phases. And this we worked out within the classical end. Now, the same thing applies with a heavy metal sound. Some of the different rock and roll categories. We have, in addition to that, some of the old handmade sounds that we brought from Istanbul and manufactured still here by hand. And these cymbal sounds are great for jazz.
I'm Herman Roscoe Ernest III on drums, percussionist, trap player, all the above. Been using Sabian cymbals for about 18 years now, going on 18 years. I like the sound control cymbals they have, you know, which is a nice line. They have, I like to have like control of a cymbal that's got a little variety of sounds. It's like the sound control crash ride. You can ride on it, you can get a dry sound, you can get a nice soft wash or wet wash. You know, it's a whole lot of things you can do on some of these cymbals, you know. All depends on the sizes. They have 20-inch, 18-inch, 21-inch, different, you know, you have dry rides, bounce rides, and that's all. That's a lot. It's a lot of variety. That's only in 2 cymbals.
The birthplace of all these cymbals is the factory melting room. Off limits to all but a few, it still holds the ancient secret.
This is the foundry or the melting room that Sabian makes all their castings from. We have a raw material in there, the copper and the tin, and the castings are actually made up of 80% copper and 20% tin. They come from the melting room and they're weighed out, and then they come over here and they put them in the bins, and then depending on which model of cymbal we're going to make, we've got the exact casting for that model. What you're looking at here is one of our large ovens. It's propane fired. It runs at 1300 degrees Fahrenheit. And we fill this oven with up to 300 castings and heat them up red hot, and then we pass them over through this rolling mill. And they get a little thinner and a little larger. Cymbal has just come through the tempering and the circling and the pressing, and it just has a rough profile. And
what we do here is adjust these hammers to hammer it in this fashion, and we adjust the profile of the cymbal.
We're big. We're 125 guys over there, and yet every one of them is doing something to help us, to help our team, to help Sabian as a whole. And for that, you have to be thankful for.
The hammering actually compresses the metal, and it also changes the characteristic of the sound. When sound hits a compressed area on the cymbal or a hammer mark, it speeds up, and when it comes out of that, it slows down. So you can adjust the complexity and richness of a cymbal by how you hammer it, what fashion, the thickness, the cup size, and all the other anatomy properties. So the lathing is the next step. About 75% of all our cymbals have the brilliant finish, which is like a mirror finish. And this is a new machine that automated that process to make it more efficient for us to buff cymbals. Once the cymbals come from the edging, which is the last step in production, they come in here in batches, and they're marked what model they're going to be. And from here, we test the product. We test every cymbal by hand. We're very innovative, and we're coming up with new products. And even with like Carl here today, like, we're learning, you know, what the demands of the drummers are, and we have to move along with them in order to keep up.
My name is Carl Allen, originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, jazz capital of the world. I live in Brooklyn, New York. And I've been a Sabian endorser for 24 years. So when they were still babies, I was still a baby, and we kind of grew up together.
A guy like Carl, he really has a specific sound in mind. He knows what he wants. And because he knows exactly what he wants, you can't just send him something that generally fits that mold. He's got to come up and actually have us work on it.
And you know, cymbals, for a jazz drummer in particular, the most personal part of the drum kit is the cymbals, particularly the ride cymbal. So my primary focus and desire for coming up here today from New York was to really spend a lot of time trying to find a ride cymbal. And so we spent hours in the room just going through ride cymbals.
What we try to do is we try to be in the market, find out what's needed, bring them up here into this little town where they've got nothing else but the cymbals to try and play, and come up with new sounds that are viable.
By working with artists, by working with regular drummers on the street, by being the type of company that goes out and talks to them, that makes them feel more close to us. So that's part of our whole personality, is that we share like a drummer does. They share, this is how I do this. So we share that, we get feedback from them, and that works with drummers, with drum stores, with professional drummers, everybody. And that type of thing, that type of personality works its way throughout the whole company, and that makes us who we are. Very open, but still dedicated group of people.
Once I went to the factory and I saw the whole process, you're a completely different person as part of the art form, because then you connect the two art forms together. The performance side with the process of the instrument. Cymbal's an instrument, it's its own instrument. And yes, absolutely. I'm a changed person of when I hit that cymbal, you know exactly what goes into it, and you can't be the same person anymore.
I'd like to be the best cymbal company in the world. I'm not that worried about being the biggest. But if we are the biggest, that's good too. but being the best is primary with us. And I think that's my motivation.
And they are always full of surprises. Nice, very nice. They're not status quo company kind of thing, and the cymbals that they make are really great.
Having a cymbal inventory is like owning a necktie store. You go in there and each one is a different sound. And when we do send out a whole bunch of these different sounds, it amazes even older musicians that have been there for years. They've never heard this sort of sound.
When you look at all the different cymbal models that are available from the likes of Sabian, you realize quite literally that there are hundreds. And for the layperson, somebody who doesn't play drums, they can't imagine why there are so many cymbals. For instance, if you take hi-hats, generally speaking, hi-hats are available in 13 and 14-inch sizes. Those are the two most popular sizes. But it's a question of what's going to work in the music.
I have about 60 different ways to do a rock pattern. And they incorporate the hi-hat, which is like this. So I play quarter notes on a hi-hat. I can play eight notes on a hi-hat. And I play the ands. All right? So what you do is take that, take any little groove like that, and add quarter notes on a hi-hat, 8 notes on the hi-hat, and the ands. No matter what I do, that hi-hat becomes like a metronome. Okay, and if you listen to a lot of great rock players, you notice in John Bonham and people like that, Whole Lot of Love, the hi-hat's always going like that, and something we've been doing for years, you know.
Sabian also works with artists to make signature cymbals, bringing their vision and ideas for sound to life.
I remember when I did in 1988 the Sabian clinic tour of Australia and the Far East. I was on tour with Dave McAllister, who was the vice president of sales and marketing. And I used to carry around the China cymbal from China. And he said, "Why do you play that cymbal? Can't we make that cymbal?" I said, "Well, none of your cymbals sound like this yet. But I don't know, maybe you can make it." So we went up to the factory, and I brought my cymbal with me. And we came out with the first Sabian Signature Series cymbal. It was my China. They've been very innovating and you know, doing what artists' needs are.
Very proactive and coming up with new things, new experiments, an open mind that, hey, somebody suggested this, let's try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, at least we try. And the relationship, the human side of a company. If I need something, I get approached and say, "Memo, what is what you need? What would you like?" And we are in touch constantly. It's a nice relationship. I don't have a need to go anywhere else.
If you get the modern musician today, he is looking for different sounds, different tones. Today, a drummer is no longer just a rhythm keeper. He's also a solo musician. He's also a person that wants to have different tone grades and so forth.
Do you have a favorite cymbal?
Absolutely, I have.
What is that?
This 18-inch ozone cymbal, HHX. I love this thing, but it doesn't really love me because I beat it too much. But it's great because, you know, these holes, for some reason, you know, the whole the thinness of it also give it a nice mix between a normal crash cymbal and a China type. so it sounds like in between both, and I use it a lot because in the music that I play, in the metal music, I do a lot of writing on it, and it just gives like a nice little wash, constant wash during what I like to use as blast beats or grind beats and what have you. So this has got to be my favorite cymbal right here.
Why do I use Sabian cymbals? Boy, very, very good question. You know, I've been very, very fortunate in the process of my journey in life to have met up with this great company back in the late 80s. And Bob Zildjian, the owner of Sabian cymbals, to be a visionary like Bob, to be able to see the fact that these sounds need to change simply because music is changing. Artists will speak in terms of dark, attack. I want a sharper sound, I want a cutting edge. They'll use terms like that to the scientists take those artistic terms and turn it into product, into actual scientific sound, that when you hit the cymbal, you hear the darkness.
Robert Zildjian and Sabian continue to support drummers, young and old, students and professionals, helping to make their dreams come true.
I think the music business is one I'd encourage people to take very seriously. What it is it's a great medium in which to work.
With its Lifetime Achievement Award, Sabian honors gifted percussionists whose performances have enhanced music and shaped the future of sound.
It's very good to be a part of Sabian. It's such a great company, and they make such a great product. And the fact that, I've been with them, oh goodness, a long, long time now, and they always make you feel like really welcome and special, and I'm really happy right now, actually.
I'm totally honored and humbled. It's one of the most significant recognition in my career.
Well, I feel very humble and I'm very honored. Sabian's a wonderful company, and they've been a great help to us in the profession over the years. And it's really, really nice to be recognized in this way.
Is there any other group of musicians who will be as social, who will share as freely, and when they get together to actually thank and respect each other, will not do it on a level where, I could never reach that, but come together as friends and talk, and actually as equals. It's a wonderful thing.
Not only does Sabian support professional artists, they also have a very strong focus on inspiring young musicians.
The youth orchestra is in its 40th year of existence this year, which is quite a celebration for us, and we're very fortunate to be able to go to China this summer. We're very grateful to the Sabian Cymbal Company for the support that they've given us, and we're very happy that the relationship between the two institutions is cordial.
Robert Zildjian and Sabian continue their commitment to the young through their Sabian Pasek scholarships.
The scholarship was established in 1999 as the result of a discussion between Mr. Robert Zildjian and myself. The winner this year is Whitney Rowe from Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland.
It's really helped me to become more confident in myself
You know, I wasn't sure if I could actually win the scholarship. When I heard back, I was just so pleased, you know, and I didn't realize the confidence that I actually had. I wasn't confident before, but after this, I just feel so great about it, and I'm really proud of myself.
An experience of a lifetime. 4 days of intense percussion clinics, workshops, performances, and the largest exhibition of percussion-related instruments, music, accessories in North America.
As Sabian recognizes and fosters development, musicians are also proud to be part of Sabian and associated with its founder, Robert.
He's got a great personality. He's a very warm human being. Every time I see him, it's always, you know, hugs and a kiss on the cheek, and he's a great guy. You know.
Bob Zildjian and I have known each other, I hate to tell you, but probably 50 years. He was a mentor. He was one of my top advisors, always gave me good advice, and couldn't have been as successful as we've been without his help.
Dad regards every single employee at Sabian as being very, very important to the success of Sabian. And this isn't anything new. This is the way that Dad is just as an individual. Every single person in the world makes the world as colorful as it is.
He's driven, he's passionate, he knows what he wants from his company, he knows what he wants from the product, he knows how he wants to be, how he wants the company to be perceived. He's still the heart. He's still the heart of the company. Yep.
I did a job, finished it, and the company is the way I want to be remembered.
A company rooted in ancient tradition and innovation. The evolution of Sabian will continue because, to the cymbal makers, sound has always mattered.